But first, I would love to know who you think should be the next Tory leader. As the inquiry begins into their election defeat, attention's turning to who's going to take over from Rishi Sunak. He said he will stay on until arrangements are in place to find his successor. Nobody's put themselves forward yet, although former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has apparently ruled himself out. But let's just have a look now at some of the names in the frame. OK, let me charge on over. And the first one we come to, familiar face to all of you, Kemi Badenoch. She's one of the front runners. She actually ran for leader after Boris Johnson's resignation. That time she came fourth. She held the role of business secretary under Rishi Sunak, but has also served as Minister for Women and Equalities, getting some attention for her views on trans rights. Let's move on to her rival, that's Suella Braverman, the former Home Secretary. Well, she's expected to put herself forward. She also ran in the contest to replace Boris Johnson. Late last year, you probably remember, she was sacked as Home Secretary after accusing the police of political bias over pro-Palestinian marches. Here's Priti Patel. Remember her? She's expected to join in the race. Some have said she's too short to be leader. Perish the thought. She was Home Secretary under Boris Johnson, in which time she signed the controversial deal to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. Now, here's James Cleverly. James Cleverly is extremely well-liked. That can be vital. He's a good speaker, former Foreign Secretary. He served in the cabinets of Boris Johnson, Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak, so made many friends. He could be a popular contender. Other possibilities include this lady here. This is Victoria Atkins. She spent little more than 6 months in cabinet as Health Secretary before the election. And here is Tom Tugendhat. Is he a familiar face to you? He's the outgoing Security Minister, and he's seen as being on the centrist wing of the party, a little bit left-leaning, which could prove a problem with the more right-leaning party members. Here's Robert Jenrick. Now, remember him. Robert Jenrick was the Immigration Minister, and he's the chap who resigned because he felt the Rwanda plan did not go far enough. So who should replace Rishi Sunak? This is the very difficult conundrum that we're trying to solve. And I suppose the overwhelming question really is, who on earth would want the role? Would you want to be leader of the opposition? Maybe you think it's a poison chalice. You wouldn't want to touch the job. Let's start with you, Christo. If they offered it to you, would you take it?
Yeah, I would take it.
Oh, would you?
I would, because I think that what the Labour Party proved with the last election, where it was said afterwards that the swing to win would have to be so great, it was unachievable. And in 5 years, they did it. And of course, because of the promises that we've spoken about in the last part, about what Labour have said, if they don't achieve them, I think that there is going to be wind in the sails once again of the Conservative Party. OK, I don't agree with everything she says, but I like Kemi Badenoch because I'm so sick of politicians that care about whether they are liked rather than whether they are right. I don't think she gives two hoots about whether she is liked too much by people. She's very Thatcherite. She just knows what's right in her mind.
I mean, it has been said of her that she would pick a fight in an empty phone box, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
So talking about not caring whether she's liked, you might say the opposite. She's almost intent on being disliked.
Maybe, but maybe we need a little bit of that rather than the horrific Boris Johnson-esque type of politics where I'll just agree with the person in front of me and actually believe absolutely nothing. I think that whoever is going to be the leader needs to do exactly what Keir Starmer did in order to get the Labour leadership. Keir Starmer cozied up to the Corbynite-esque of the wing of the party, had these 10 pledges that were quite Corbyn-esque, which amazingly disappeared once he became leader, because what he did was reached out to the left, then moved the party to the right. I think what the leader of the Conservatives will have to do is the precise opposite. Reach out to the right to get elected, and then actually reach out to the left, One Nation part of the party. Tom Tugendhat I like a lot as well, but I don't think he'd get elected because he's too centrist, and I think that will be the key to them having that broad brush to get them elected next time.
Where's the smart money in this?
Yeah, so I think Christo is talking sense politically, but if I'm speaking from my heart, I find Priti Patel, Suella Braverman, Kemi Badenoch like literally petrifying. And I think what we've missed for so long in politics are people who are governing us with not just some intelligence and competence, but with some compassion and some kindness for how people live. And I feel like their whole shtick is revolting.
But is there a massive difference between being fit for governance, the governing party, and being the opposition party? It's a different role. It's a different role. And also the power quotient has subsided so utterly dramatically.
Yeah. But I would like personally to see James Cleverly out of this slot in the role. Robert Jenrick terrifies me as well.
Why?
Yes.
Why is Robert Jenrick terrifying?
I think somebody who orders a children's mural to be painted over in a refugee centre because it makes it too welcoming is to be frightened of.
OK, that was a good answer to that question.
Absolutely
Good answer.
revolting.
Let's go to our callers. Let's talk to John in the West Midlands. Hello, John. Thanks for ringing. Do you reckon that the leader will be among this lot?
No, David Cameron.
David Cameron? Do you think he'll even want to be the leader of the party in opposition, having been Prime Minister and Foreign Secretary, flying all over the place?
He's the only one who can get the Conservative Party out of this mess. I mean, if they don't have him now, they might as well just think, that's it, we've gone for another 5, 10, even 15 years.
Could you have a Lord?
No, I think they have to be an MP,
Yeah,
so he'd have to
I
win
think
a by-election.
That's
but,
right.
I mean, I think the good point about David Cameron is that he always had an eye, even though he was slightly more centrist, he always had an eye on the right of the party, and he would always give them a little bit of red meat now and then. And
he gave them a Brexit referendum.
Perhaps too much red meat at times. But the point is, he was able to balance the two sides of the party in a really good way that I think perhaps some of these might have a bit of trouble with.
John, if we can't shoehorn in David Cameron, are there any other good choices that you like the look of?
What about you doing it?
Me?
Yeah.
What makes you think I'm a Tory? I worked at the BBC for so many years, nobody has any idea what my personal politics are. And I hope I haven't showed it today either. Hope not.
What? Why not?
Why not? Because it's my own business and I don't want to overshadow everything I ever discuss with my own opinion. But do you think, though, that anybody worth their salt would really want to take this gig on, John, when it looks as though they're so many, many years away from enjoying power again?
Nah, I think the only one is David Cameron. That's my only opinion.
What's really interesting is we have no idea at this moment who the shadow opposition are, do we? That hasn't been decided at all, so that will unfold. But he's not got many to pick from.
And Vanessa, come on, be honest. We know your politics. Monster Raving Loony Party. You did make that very clear off air.
I did say, where are they? I did.
I think, though, that the issue is that reform, if you combine the reform and the Conservative vote, when it comes to numbers, not seats in the election just gone, they would have won. They would have got more voters than Labour. They may not have won in seats, but what I'm saying is that the reform coming third, that is a massive number of votes, and immigration is a huge issue in this country. It's so much of an issue that Labour have got, big policies on it.
It's become a scapegoat issue because of all the intrinsic problems that haven't been addressed over the last decade.
You see, we haven't got among that gallery, I'm not going to say rogues gallery, I don't think they are rogues, actually.
Oh, they are.
At least not all of them. But we haven't got among that gallery Nigel Farage. I mean, some people would say that he is the right person, wouldn't they? The only person in this country who could, if he were to, accept the challenge, lead the Tories to a future victory.
But then I think what you lose there is the One Nation Tories. Again, I consider myself ideologically sort of one of those, probably centre-right. I wouldn't vote for Nigel Farage. And so immediately you would lose people, I think, like me, whom they should be trying to lure back. So I think that would be too much of a risk. But that does not mean that immigration, I know what you're saying about the fact that there's been a lack of infrastructure and a lack of the services, but population versus infrastructure is a massive issue in this country, and that's why reform got so many votes.
Yeah, but also because certain papers have put on their front page, and of course it's an issue, I'm not saying it isn't, but there are so many other things that this country faces that need more prominence and to be spoken about more. And also Victoria Atkins is on that list, which is hilarious. So the naughty part of me would love her to get it.
Why?
Because it would just be the end of the party. I mean, it would be funny.
Because what?
Because she talks about things like in interviews, she doesn't interview well, so she's talked about things like she called junior doctors trainees. I mean, mamma mia, she was like supposed to have anything to do with the NHS. They are fully qualified, experienced doctors. And then she said it was lovely and a real privilege to have food banks in her area. No, it isn't. Food banks shouldn't be existing.
Embarrassment and shaming. Let me read you some of the messages that have come in this morning. David on Facebook says, Larry the cat has seen so many of them come and go, so he should throw his hat into the ring. Very helpful, David. Elizabeth on X says, Suella Braverman all the way, but doesn't say why. Do you have any faith in Suella Braverman's chances, Christo?
Well, I think she she could do well. I think her and Priti Patel are quite adored by the party faithful, you know, the membership, and I think that they will appeal to the Tory voters that worry about immigration, as we've discussed, but also I think that what's ironic is the Conservatives have done the heavy lifting for Labour when it comes to tax. I cannot believe, under Labour's own figures, we're going to have the highest tax threshold since 1948.
No, we've got that now.
No, and it's going to go up under Labour. It's going to go up under Labour.
Promised it won't. Rachel Reeves has
promised
it.
Hang on. The taxes themselves won't go up into income tax. The thresholds will stay the same. As wages go up, more people will be in that tax, hence it being IFS says higher than 1948.
If your wages go up, of course, you get taxed more. What is wrong with that? They will say you're criticising a new government that hasn't done anything wrong for doing something it said it isn't going to do, and you're criticising it for people earning more money, which is what everybody wants to do, or almost everybody.
I am talking about what the Institute for Fiscal Studies said would happen under Labour's own figures, putting more people out of all the parties in the tax bracket, meaning that they will pay the highest since 1948. Conservative voters, if we're talking about Conservative leadership, do not want that, and there hasn't been. That's again why Reform, their tax policy, attracted Conservative voters, because low tax, tough on immigration, tough on crime policies, the Conservative Party outgoing, no one trusted them on.
Let's go on the line before this turns into a fisticuffs. Let's go to Sandra, who's on the line. Hi, Sandra, thanks for ringing. Morning.
Good morning.
How are you feeling about who should lead the Tory party out of this ignominious defeat?
To be honest, I'm unsure at the moment. I did have a doorstep conversation with Victoria Atkins. I was quite impressed with her, even though, you know, I'm very angsty over the dental situation and have written to Tom Pursglove over a period of time about that subject.
Just to clarify, you say you're antsy over the dental situation. Does that mean you've got actual toothache now as we're speaking, or what's going on?
No. I've been paying privately since I was 28 years old. But I'm now retired, and as I was approaching retirement, I thought, really, I should be getting an NHS dentist, and it's a bit of a wind-up, to be honest with you, having paid all of my working life.
Tell me something, Sandra. Did they tell you how far you were going to have to travel to get anywhere near the orbit, even, of an NHS dentist?
There was... I actually, me and my husband got on the list in our local community dentist.
Yeah.
But they said that they accepted us and they put us on the list. However, the following week, the pandemic broke out, and they wouldn't accept us because we hadn't had our first dental inspection.
So since then, have you been anywhere near an NHS dentist?
I actually wrote to the government about that situation and got absolutely nowhere. Had some lord write to me and, shout the odds a little bit, and I wasn't very happy, which Tom knew about, and I brought all this up on the doorstep and actually caught Tom Pursglove later in the day in our village. So I actually stopped my car, went out and grabbed him and said, I'm not happy with this situation. Now he's not in a position
to do anything at all about it. So that is a real shame. And your teeth, what on earth? Thank you so much, Sandra. I mean, it all gets very basic, doesn't it, when we're talking about houses, drainage, sewage and teeth.
Yeah.
There are people whose teeth are aching, who've lost their teeth, have pulled their teeth out with pliers because they can't find an NHS dentist. And Sandra's right, isn't she? After a whole lifetime of paying national insurance and tax, she deserves to have an NHS dentist.
And this is why it's going to be really interesting to see Nigel Farage operating in Clacton when people are going there with their local issues about potholes and about their dentists and so on, and see how good he is at addressing all of those.
All right. Thank you both. Later on.